Tell the story you told me yesterday about when we talked about the race happening and then when it became official, like an hour later.
So when I first started working at BPN, multiple people told me, hey, Nick moves fast. And that's just kind of all they said. They were like, Nick moves fast. And I was like, perfect. Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm ready for it. But I feel like I got my first taste of like Nick moves fast with this ultra. You stopped by our office and you were like, hey, this has been an idea for a while, but when you had stopped by our office about 10 weeks ago, you were like, hey, I think we should do the 50-mile overnight ultra. And we were like, yeah, great. Like, just an idea. Like, we'll talk through it. Obviously had some like concerns, but we'll talk through it, kind of set a date and work towards it in the future. I was even thinking like post-summer at first, just because of the Texas heat. And you're like, yeah, I think I might want to tie it to the TSP premiere. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, like you kind of threw out the idea. I was like, we can talk through it. I don't have to like, you know, bring the mood down. Like, we'll talk through the issues later and we'll kind of set a date. And that was kind of it. You went back to your office, opened my phone. 2 hours later, you had posted an Instagram story saying, what's up, guys? We are going to be doing a BPN 50-mile overnight ultra in June. And I was like, okay. I was like, Nick moves fast and we are doing this. But it was very positive pressure. I think you have a great leadership style, and it's something I reflected on a lot during this planning process, where you don't put anybody in a situation where you don't think they can succeed. Like, you will not set us up for failure. You will only set us up for success. So you did that because you trusted Tony and I, and you were like, I know that they can do this, so I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah. And you're the type of person where you give us full trust to make it happen, and if we need anything, we can call you right away. So yeah, my stomach sank when I saw it on your story, because I was like, okay, we've never planned a race, let alone like a 50-mile overnight ultra in Texas. We had no location at the time. We didn't know if we could use the ranch at the time when you posted it. So we had no location, like no platform to run this thing. Like, we had nothing. But it like put so much positive pressure on it. Like, okay, like we said we're going to do it. Like, let's do this.
I'm a big fan of having vision and always having ideas. And it's one of those things, if I try to articulate what I think my brain looks like, it's like all these ideas are floating around and I just like let them marinate and I'll revisit them every once in a while. And then when I feel convicted to act on one, when I go and grab that idea and pull it into me, that's it. It's like that is the moment where it's official, we're doing this. And then I oftentimes need to do something that holds me and everyone else accountable. And that's putting that out into the universe, because once we put it out there, we can't go back.
I mean, I feel like there's so many brands and people, even in general, with their own goals and stuff, that will say they want to do something and like put it on their back burner or just like keep it in their mind and like never actually say it and you know, put it out into the world. And you do that often, and that helps a lot, like actually sticking to it. Because otherwise, if we would have just put this on a like task manager software, you know, it had just been an email chain. We could have planned this for months and months and months and dragged it on, where it's like, we didn't need to do that. Like it was a lot of pressure and a lot of work, but like we got it done and it was so much fun. And because of that pressure, it was like literally the most rewarding thing that I've gotten to work on at BPN. So like, yeah, it's, you know, stressful in the moment, but it's like, okay, I mean, Nick has obviously thought this through. Like it's possible. We can do it. We're the right people to do it. Let's get it done.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the concept of the race, where it started, how we got to this point. So to go back a few years, it was 2021. I was preparing for the Leadville 100 trail race. And in preparation for that race, I wanted to do an overnight 50 miler. So it was me, Ian, and Yoli. We went downtown Austin, and I ran 50 miles around Lady Bird Lake, or Town Lake Loop. It's a 10-mile loop, did that 5 times. And I loved that entire experience. Running at night, under a headlamp, no one else out there. Felt like I was by myself in this super active and busy city. And I left that training run. I remember the next morning, sun was coming up. People were arriving to Auditorium Shores, where we ended, and they're getting ready to go for their run. And we just wrapped up our run, 50 miles, logged my watch, went home, racked out for a few hours, woke up feeling very just appreciative and grateful that I could push my body to those efforts in preparation to go run Leadville. And ever since that training run, I've wanted to recreate it for other people to experience because I just had so much fun with it. It was challenging. It was hard. It was a distance that, depending on your fitness level, won't crush you for weeks and weeks like a 100-miler does oftentimes. But a 50-miler definitely pushes you outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It hurts. It's painful. It's doable. And it provides you this confidence that, all right, I can do this. What else can I do? So I wanted to create this experience for other people at some point. I knew I wanted it to be in Austin. I wanted it to be overnight in the dark to recreate those conditions. And when we started talking about it, we originally wanted to do it downtown Austin around Lady Bird Lake Loop.
Yeah.
But then just thinking of logistics, bringing all these people in, having porta potties, having food, fuel, all of these things, it really wouldn't be doable or realistic or feasible. So that's where we came up with the concept of finding this ranch. We connected with Jo Gatlin. She was kind enough to allow us to use her property, and Survive the Night became a thing. So what was the first thing we started working on once we solidified the idea that we wanted to host this race? We have a location, we know where we want it to be. How do we bring this to life? Like, what did you guys do?
I mean, for me personally, I was just like mostly concerned with like the vibe of the race and like making sure that like it held that theme of your first training run of like still being gritty and still being kind of like raw and like obviously being planned and like really thought out. But, you know, I mean, that like theme of like being raw went into every decision we made, like even the bucket for the DNF. Like I didn't want it to be a new bucket. I wanted it to be spray painted and rusted and like kind of like have that feel and that aesthetic. So I think it was more so like just kind of concepting the idea of like, what do we want to do? And then Ethan did a ton for the branding. Like
Yeah,
Ethan and Cade like crushed the branding, like so huge. I think did he come up with Survive the Night? Who came up?
Ethan did.
Ethan is the one that came up with the title Survive the Night. So ton of credit to Ethan and Cade. Like they're our designers and art directors and like just an incredible job. They designed everything for the race. So they started working on that, and like once they did that theme and the design work, that really like led a lot of like the vision for the race and how it felt.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tony and I kind of attacked this from two different angles. I think we really like work together super well, but Tony has a media background. He has that creative vision background, so we kind of worked on like, again, working with Ethan and Cade, kind of cultivating the BPN feel, the BPN vibe. My background is in supply chain, so I'm a big like logistics person, so I tackled more of the logistics. Okay, what do we need to rent? Where are we going to rent it from? What's that going to look like? How's it going to look like on the ranch? And so I was tackling like the logistics and the course, and Tony was tackling kind of like the vibe and the design, and that's what allowed it to just kind of come together full circle, is both of us were working on different things, but simultaneously to create this race.